Again, welcome to the pre-proposal conference for RFQ6582, which is the construction manager at risk. We appreciate all of you joining us today, and we will get started. Eric Allen, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. I want to welcome you all here for this. If you are here for the construction manager at risk, RFQ, you're in the right place. We've got a nice group of individuals here that will be presenting a little bit of information to you to further clarify the RFQ and expectations, and talk a little bit about the program to make you aware of where we're starting and where we're heading, to make sure that we have a successful program. At this point, you want to go ahead and put up the Will, if you can put up the presentation, it'd be great. And while he's doing that, I just want to remind everybody this is being recorded, and there will be a mechanism if you'd like to get a copy of the recording. And of course, any questions we answer will be informal answers that we give you currently. And if you have a formal question you want to ask, it needs to be submitted in writing to the purchasing department, Ms. Felicia Moore, which we will give you an email address for that purpose a little later in the presentation. All right. Are we ready, Will? You want to go full screen with that, or are you good?
No, you can go ahead.
All right. So again, it's pre-proposal meeting for RFQ 6582, CM at risk, and this is for the 2022 bond program. If you can go to the next slide. All right. Introductions. With agenda, excuse me, the agenda. So just a brief agenda, and it shouldn't take us long to go through this agenda, and I anticipate we'll spend much more time answering questions at the end. So we'll start off with introductions. We'll talk briefly about the bond program, talk about the RFQ process, speak about our MWB and workforce development program. We'll talk, I'll mention some of the important dates that you guys need to be aware of, and we'll talk a little bit about the RFQ submittal process, and then we'll end with questions and answers. And again, you can type them in, or you can ask those questions, raise your hands, and we will attempt to answer the best we can. Any formal answers you require will be need to be submitted in writing. All right. Next slide, please. All right. If we can start with introductions, and I'm not sure how many of the GCS people are here, but the GCS leadership that may or may not be on this call consists of facilities, the Senior Executive Director of Facilities and Maintenance, John Simmons, Mr. Gene Sides, the Executive Director of Planning, Design and Construction. For the Purchasing Department, Felicia Moore, who is the Director of Purchasing, and the MWBE, Senior Director of MWBE and Operational Support is Dr. Kimberly Funderburg. I'm not sure if all of them are on this call, but
looks like Gene and Felicia are on.
Okay, perfect. So they're on this call, so they can possibly answer any questions you may have as well. All right, can you go to the next one? And so the Program Management Office, which is our joint venture of MEG, CBRE, in association with TRS&I and Brownstone. We have Mr. Monty Edwards is the project executive. Myself, Eric Allen, project director, deputy project director, Scott Mincy, you just heard his voice a few seconds ago. And for the in our MWE and diversity, we have Rachel Lattimore, Chief Diversity Officer. Go to the next one, please. Vanetta Mitchell, NWBE Implementation. I don't think she's on this call. And then Thomas Griffiths, who is Senior Project Manager on this program. And he is the Project Director for the maintenance portion of this, which may or may not pertain to this. So, all right, so we can go to the next one. So let's talk a little bit about the bond program. I think most of you are aware in 2022, around April, I think it was, the county voters voted in favor of a $1.7 billion school bond referendum to go in association with the $300 million they passed the year before. And the $1.7 billion was broken into two critical needs. One was ongoing maintenance, and the other was for school upgrades and construction. And along the same lines with the maintenance and all is to improve safety and security, as well as to, we've got some buildings that were in critical condition when it comes to potential failure. So if we can go to the next one. And reason why most of you are here today, the school district has approved using the CM at risk delivery method for the first 9 schools, and we'll show a list of those here in a minute. And of course, bringing out some of our reasons for going to CM at risk is that we want to have an early collaboration on these projects between the owner, my office, the designers, and the actual constructability of the projects of the schools, as well as trying to manage any risk and control costs. So we believe that CM at risk provides the best method to have a balanced approach as it comes to going through the construction process. If we can go to the next slide. So the selection process that we'll use in selecting CMs for these 9 projects, and it's detailed in the RFQ, is just we basically just lifted it and pasted it here. So of course we're going to look at your successful completion of similar projects in scope and size. Look at previous experience. We'd like to look at the qualifications of your key personnel. Look at how well you managed, at least money-wise, monetarily, your GMP that you've had on other projects. We can go to the next one. Of course, finishing schools, on schedule, on time. Your proximity will be considered as well in our selection process. How close you are, how familiar you are with the area. Having joint ventures, of course, will carry some weight as well with an MWEV firm, which many of you have already done in the past, so it should not be new to you. The quality of your execution of your plan. We would love to see your plan and see how you've been successful with having your outreach plan in the past. And of course, there's other factors that we maybe feel that's appropriate for the project as we look through your submissions. We can go to the next one, please. All right, I'm going to pass this over to Scott Mincy, the Deputy Project Director or Program Director, so he can talk a little bit about the actual projects that we have so far approved by the school district to move forward with.
Thanks, Eric. Yeah, and as Eric said, these are the ones that the board have approved to move forward. Obviously, there are various tiers and various phases, but these are the ones that have been approved for CM at risk. You can see these schools are based on the master facility plan that GCS has put together. They are in an order that the intent is to approach them and keep them in this order. There may be a little bit of change as we move through, but you can see Sumner Elementary is a rebuild on site, should be roughly 110,000 square foot. Mosley is a design team. The Swan Center is a full renovation as a historical site, roughly 150,000 square feet with Evoke. Lindley Elementary is a rebuild on site, same 110 SHP. Northwood rebuild on site, elementary school 110,000. Shady Brook rebuild 110,000 on site. Northwest Middle School is the only one on this list that is new construction. That being said, it will be on a new parcel of land. Being a middle school, obviously it's a little bit larger, potentially 170,000 square feet. Joyner, Vandalia, and Bessemer elementary schools are pretty much in the same mode. So you can see the majority of these schools are elementary schools, roughly 110,000 square feet. The intent is, GCS does want some innovative type design and build, but for the most part, I mean, these will be, steel, brick and mortar. I mean, I think there's nothing that these should be some typical typical designs with some typical construction that would support that. The timing of these projects is not been completely determined. Like I said, they are in order. A lot will depend on design and how much the schools can actually receive. But the last thing I will say is the intent here is to get a pool of CMs, and you will be assigned one of these schools with the design team. All right, thanks, Eric.
All right, no problem. And just so you guys just kind of to wrap that up, couple of things. One is we have assigned designers to these projects, and you probably can look at this list and probably figure out who most of the contact people are for them. We are still in pre-design, so it's very important for us to bring you guys on as soon as possible as we move forward. So we can at least get you in early enough that you can put your input in. Cost, of course, will be very, very important to us as we move forward and trying to control the cost. A couple other things to talk about. Almost all of these schools, with the exception of Northwest Middle, will have some demo. Some of them will be complete demo, of course. But I think Northwest Middle stands out as being one that we're going to build a new Northwest Middle. And I don't believe at this point we've have an indication between us or the board on how to what we're planning on doing to reuse Northwest Middle, and if there's any renovations that need to happen to make that happen. And Swan Center stands out because it is historical. So there are some buildings on site that we cannot, as far as we know, can't touch much of the facade. And we believe most of the work on the inside of those, the main building, if you ever go out there, it's the main building and the building to the adjacent to the left of the building if you're facing it, are the two that we have to keep. And there'll be some major renovations and additions, of course, added to that. The other one that stands out is Lindley. Lindley is not historically registered, but there will be some historic looking components as far as aesthetics on that building whenever we do build it. All right, so that's the list, guys. Well, this will be recorded. Of course, you can see it. If you need to take a screenshot, take it. That's fine as well. All right, we can go to the next slide, please. All right, I will hand this over to our MWBE experts that are on the call. I don't know if Rochelle or you or Will is going to handle that.
I am here. This is Rochelle Latimer again with TRS&I Group, the diversity partner for the team. And I'll go over some of the semantics in regards to the Minority Women in Business Enterprise Program. For this endeavor, for our qualifications for CM at risk, we are asking that we pursue joint ventures with our MWBE firms. We really want to try to increase capacity as it relates to the MWBE community. And so for my team, what we'll be doing is trying to help you through that process. For those of you who are considering that path of joint venturing, please feel free to reach out to any of us for a list of firms who could potentially help you in that space. So we are definitely promoting partnerships and joint ventures for our smaller subcontractors in the MWBE space. You may want to consider even partnering because we have a great deal of projects that are large in size. And so in order for you to be able to compete, we ask that you consider partnering with some of the other smaller firms to be able to do that. We are not establishing goals as it relates to the CMAR qualifications. We are selecting firms that will be able to manage these schools. And so goals will be set on a case-by-case basis. So when we identify schools and different projects on those particular schools, then goals will be set contingent upon the scope of work, the availability in the market, and capacity. So understand and know that. I know there have been a great deal of questions asked surrounding what the goals will be. So understand and know that once we have selected the CMAR firms and we start letting these particular projects and we look at the scope of work, we look at the availability of the market and the capacity of those firms that are available, then we will set goals on each of our projects as we move forward. As far as MWBE requirements, that information will also be provided. We will have some workshops surrounding what is required with those particular documents and what is considered responsive as a part of filling out those particular documents. So as we move forward, and again, when the selection process is ended, we will move on into the information regarding the requirements. Next slide, please. Professional development. This is all what we're always looking for. So my team will help to identify resources for our MWBE community, as well as will help to identify opportunities for partnering. We'll have a number of different workshops available for you all to participate in. We'll have an attorney coming in and conducting a workshop on joint venturing versus partnerships. And with that, you'll have the opportunity, if you're looking to create or develop a partnership or joint venture, he would be able to assist you in that. If you want to utilize someone else's services, you're more than happy to do that. But if that's something that you're looking into, we will have a workshop on that, instructing you what the process actually looks like. We'll also have workshops on the pre-qualification process for those of you who are looking for that assistance, whether it be prime or whether it be our subcontractors. We have a number of safety, bidding, estimating, a number of different workshops planned for you in the community. So please look for that information. You will now be inserted into our database. And so whenever we have any workshops coming available, we'd be invited to participate in those workshops. I know that we do have a workshop coming up, I think at the latter part of this month, on joint venturing and partnerships. So please look for that flyer and for that invitation for those of you who are wanting to participate in that. Next slide. Workforce development is our new initiative within Guilford County Schools. Again, this is a $1.7 billion bond, and with that, there's a great deal of opportunity for economic development. We would like to see this money stay in the community. And so knowing and seeing that in the construction industry, there's a lot of opportunity to work in this particular space. And then not all of those opportunities are out digging ditches that some people may think. There are other opportunities there. And so with that, we are going to ask that our firms, all of our firms on every level, participate in our workforce development program, meaning that you commit to at least hiring one individual from the community, from Guilford County, to work on your projects. We have partnered with a number of different community partners, such as, if you could go to the next slide, please. Goodwill, Guilford Works, which is a part of NC Works, WRLP, Occupational Heroes, and Tiny Houses. And with these different organizations, they provide technical assistance and training surrounding one being HVAC, another being carpentry, another provides services surrounding childcare, transportation, just a number of different technical assistance that they all provide. And with that, they have individuals who are graduating from their programs and they are looking for employment. And so the ask is that you look to hire some of those individuals. If you know of some individuals in the community who are looking for an opportunity, you can send them over to those organizations. And we also know and understand, we've already had conversations with some of the construction firms that they have internal workforce development or on-the-job training programs already in place. And so they are actually looking for participants. And so whenever there's an overflow of people, you can probably pull from some of those organizations as well. So again, the ask is that you hire at least one individual. As we move forward, the numbers will increase. And we will monitor that process and for the duration of our time managing this bond. We will consider a successful hire as one who has had consistent employment for at least a year. So we will identify someone to we will identify an individual that will monitor that on a regular basis. We will report out quarterly and of course at year end. If any of those, we may have some representatives from Guilford Works, Goodwill, WRLP, Occupational Heroes, or Tiny Houses. You may raise your hand and please utilize the chat to communicate with one another. Next slide. I will turn it right back over to you, Eric Allen. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right, important dates. So this is also in the RFQ. You guys had a chance to get a hold of that, but I want to make sure that we pull them out so you guys would at least could capture this. You can screenshot it, of course, if you need to, but the important dates, of course, today you guys are here. So August the 1st was made at 1 o'clock for the pre-proposal meeting. Questions are due to Valicia Moore in purchasing, and I will share an email address with you for another slide. And that is at noon on August the 15th. So any questions that you may have about the RFQ submittal process or what's needed or required, please email those questions to her. She will, of course, disseminate the answers with the questions to everybody prior to the proposal due date, which is August the 25th at 2 o'clock. So there's some formatting as far as how she'd like to receive that, how we'd like to receive that, which we'll cover again in a later slide. Our intention is to have a CM shortlist by September the 7th. So we will go through and evaluate all of the proposals and then create a a ranking list from that and decide when or if we were going to have CM interviews to shorten that list. Again, we'll probably have more CMs pre-selected than we actually will have projects in the first 9. But again, this program will include more than just those 9 schools, unless the costs just become insurmountable. But I don't think we'll spend all the money on the first 9, but we will see. So anyway, long story short, we will let you know when or if those interviews will happen. And give you details on what you need to provide for those interviews. All right, and then our goal is, of course, to have the assignments and have you guys under contract working with the designers as soon as possible after those interviews. Next slide, please. All right, so what needs to be in the submittal is all the elements that you need to put into your submittal during Section 5 of the RFQ. We are anticipating, or we would expect, that you would have 3 hard copies and 1 electronic an Adobe PDF on a flash drive for us to have as well, so we can disseminate it. And then those packages are to be delivered. Again, 2 o'clock is the deadline on the 25th. That's the address, and it needs to be labeled with RFQ number 6582, CM at Risk Services. And deliver it to the address as you see on the screen. 2 o'clock is the latest. I suggest if you're going to overnight the day before, that you make sure that it's there in the morning party next day if you have to make sure that it shows up at 2. They'll mark them as they come in, so if they're after 2, they will not be accepted. Next slide, please. All right, so questions, submittal questions I mentioned earlier. They're due on or before August the 15th at 12 o'clock p.m., noon, via email, and the email address is at the bottom underneath Valicia Moore's name, Purchasing Director, gaddyv@gcsnc.com. All right, anything you want to add to that, Ms. Moore?
No.
All right, thank you. All right, next slide, please. All right, questions, I guess, questions and maybe a little dialogue here. One of the things I want to make sure, because I'm looking at the list here, is just a process of procedures type statement I want to make. I'll see a lot of names that I know, from my, God knows how long, over, I don't hate to even say it, close to 3 decades of being in school construction. Please refrain from asking us questions directly. If you notice anybody on the panel, those questions need to go through Ms. Moore. If you want to just say hi, that's fine, but let's, and that's not just talking about us talking here, but shooting us an email asking questions about the RFQ process. Thank you.
Okay, Eric, I have one question, actually
Yes.
several questions. First question, is the page limit inclusive of the cover, back, table of contents, tabs, and or the cover letter?
I actually asked that question of Ms. Moore earlier today, and the answer I got, Ms. Moore, was that it is inclusive of everything. Does that still stand?
What was the question again?
Question, is the page limit inclusive of the cover, back, table of contents, tabs, and or the cover letter?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Next question, will you be providing this PowerPoint deck to the attendees? Ask and answer, yes. Is this a mandatory or optional meeting for CMAR firms? Ask and answer, no. Will you please share the names and contact information of CMAR firms who have attended this meeting so we can contact them for partnerships? Asked and answered, yes. Do you anticipate different CMs for each, or could a CM be selected for multiple? Second, do we need to identify in our proposal which projects we would like to be considered for? Eric.
Yes. So it's two questions there. First one, there's a possibility that a CM may have more than one school, and that would be, for instance, if we decided to have a prototype and the site conditions would say, you know what, we have a CM designer team already in place for this one, we're going to build the same school on another site, then we may take a look at that and see if that makes sense to us. But you will be assigned, of the 9, you will know which ones you have whenever we come out of our discussions and do assignments. The second question would be, it's fine if you want to identify, and I'm not going to make it mandatory. If you want to identify that you'd like to maybe create a priority list and say, this is our first choice, this is our second choice, or third choice, or whatever. I won't tell you not to, so that's fine, and I will take that in consideration as we look. So it's not mandatory to do, but if you have a school that you feel like you want to do and say, if I only get one, I want this one, but you'll take other ones, then definitely put that in the information that you provide to us.
Next question, will there be opportunities for small GC that are not subs? Second part of that, will that be a partner or a JV situation?
So of course, these schools will all be delivered as CM at risk. So will there be opportunity within this bond program? There's a good possibility that a GC, but a small GC, depending on the size and scope of the project. So right now, these first 9 are, but that doesn't stop a CM from hiring a small GC to do certain tasks or work on the or one of the bid packages. They may be suitable to handle that, whether it's finished carpentry or whatever. So I'm sure we will, in our discussions with the CMs, develop packages that would give opportunities to small companies to get involved. Also, I think it was covered earlier, but I just want to make sure I pull it out. We're going to have multiple opportunities for everybody to get to know the CMs as we assign them. So we want to have as many networking opportunities as we can so they get a chance to see and make sure that you are able, at least, if nothing else, to give your elevator speech, as well as maybe talk to some of these GCs about, CMs about opportunities to work on their projects.
Question, will you have a workforce development report that will be submitted monthly? Asked and answered, yes. Question,
Bonnie, give me 1 second. I need to fix
Okay.
something. All right, the response, the question was, is this a mandatory or optional meeting for CMAR firms? The original answer given was no. I apologize. That answer is yes. This is a mandatory meeting.
Yeah, I was going to clarify that later, but thank you for doing that.
okay. Okay. Question, will financial statements be excluded due to the size of the page in the page count?
I'm going to yield to GCS for that one for now, and if they have an answer, then we'll talk about it. So, Ms. Moore, the financial statements can be very lengthy. Are you including that in the page count?
Is Gene on this call?
Yes, he is. And will you accept maybe an executive summary, if that's the case?
Alicia, I'm here.
Will you accept an executive summary on this?
Yeah, we'll accept an executive summary on this.
Okay.
Question,
And I guess the question is does that help whoever asked that question? I'm not sure who it was. Lydia McDowell.
I think she's muted.
Okay.
Okay. Next question, will financial statements be excluded? Somebody just asked that question.
Mhm.
Question, will the required forms listed on page 8 under tab 6 be provided?
Ask that question again. I'm sorry. What was that?
Will the required forms listed on page 8 under tab 6 be provided?
If there's any forms that are missing, we will provide those. I know there were some questions that I received earlier about W-9s and things like that, and I will make sure that that's covered in an addendum.
Question, is a joint venture information workshop at Union Square and not Union Station correct? At Union Square. Question, is there opportunity for protege partnerships as well?
See that question.
Protege partnerships,
Say that again. I'm sorry. I'm having a hard time hearing you.
is there opportunity for protege partnerships as well?
Not at this time, but I believe that's something we will work on as we move forward.
Question, how do we register our firms as attended this meeting? Or in other words, is there a record of who has attended? We'll answer that one.
The short answer is yes. So go ahead.
Yes. Lydia McDowell responded, yes, it helped. Thank you.
Mhm.
Question, will details be added to the RFP regarding workforce development?
Yes, we will send an addendum out.
Hey, Bonnie, if I can jump in, this is Monty Edwards. Going back to the protege partnerships question, I just want to add a little more detail to that. I mean, if there are mentor protege combinations that some folks responding are looking at, that's certainly fine. But as was mentioned earlier by Rachel, there's going to be a preference for joint ventures, but mentor proteges are absolutely fine as well. Okay, go ahead, Bonnie. I just wanted to add that.
Okay. Next question, are partnerships or associations okay, or are you looking for true legal JVs?
Bonnie, you want to handle that?
Sure, same thing. I mean, we're we see, joint ventures are a solid, I mean, you're coming together as a majority firm and a MWBE firm, and you're almost tied at the hip. And we see a lot of value in that. We've seen that in growth of companies, including some that are right here, even on this program management team.
Definitely.
And there's a lot of value there. And so that's why the preference is joint ventures here. So, but if you want to submit that a joint venture, I mean, that's, it's not mandatory per se. It's just what we see as a preference, and that will be preferred during our selection process.
I have no further questions.
If anybody has any other questions that you didn't want to write down, but you can raise your hand and we will address them. All right. We can take the presentation down. I mean, to see everybody's faces that want to turn the cameras on.
And Eric, just to clarify, any questions that were asked and answered here still need to be submitted in
Yes.
writing so that they can be officially issued an addendum, correct?
That is correct.
Right.
It's an awkward silence where I'm trying to figure out if anybody has any questions.
Right, I'm looking. Anyone have their hand up? I can't see.
No hands, no
No hands.
questions.
Well, thank you all again for attending and participating in our pre-proposal conference for RFQ 6582, Construction Manager at Risk. Again, we will send out the contact information for those who participated. You will receive that in the email. And if you are interested in the recording, you'll need to email us and let us know that you're requesting it. We will need to figure out a way to be able to send it, because it's, of course, a large file. And so being with the time limit that's on it. And so please let us know if you would like that. Okay, I'm sorry, I was distracted. I saw a question pop up. But at any rate, thank you again. Please, again, send in those questions officially to Ms. Moore, if you have any. And then you will expect to receive some addendums, an addendum come out from this particular meeting. Does anyone else on the team have anything else to say?
Rachel, I'll just end by saying we're excited. Our team's excited. We're calling ourselves the Program Management Office. I want to thank everyone from the team on this call for your leadership, and for the leadership of GCS that's on the call. Felicia, Gene Sides, and certainly, like Eric, see a lot of folks on the attendees list that I'm familiar with. So I think we're going to do some great things for those of you that are selected, either for these projects or the future projects. We could do some great things for the community, for the staff and students of Guilford County Schools. So looking forward to it, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you all. Have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Look forward to working with you.